Good morning and thank you so much for joining us once again for the VPN on this 21st day of May. My name is Rita Kemgesa. Now this week has really been a beehive of activity here in the country. Of course, that said, the taxman, like the song just played, are hurting. They are still looking, digging deeper into their pockets to look for money to, meet, just provide for a meal for the day. Things are really hard. But we'll just do a flashback of what has been happening throughout this entire week. The allied health professionals continue with their strike. We understand these make about 65% of the over 57,000 health workers in the public service. They are demanding for a better pay. And we did see earlier this week, Kenya presidential hopeful Raila Odinga pay a courtesy visit to our president in the country at State House Entebbe. And from Parliament, we did see the Trade Committee director for the termination of the controversial coffee deal that was signed between government and the Uganda Vinci Coffee Limited company that was supposed to establish an $800 million coffee processing plant. And still, we did see the committee recommend that government should actually punish some of the government officials behind this controversial deal, saying it would act as a deterrent mechanism to stop similar occurrence in the future. Well, still from Parliament, it has been an exciting week for parliamentarians. We did see them give the IGG 3 months to investigate allegations of financial mismanagement of the Science, Technology and Innovation Initiative that was headed by the current Minister of ICT, Dr. Monica Msenero. And just yesterday from Parliament, we did see them pass the budget for the next financial year, that is 2022-2023, a 48.1 trillion budget. That is approximately 4 trillion shillings bigger than that for the current financial year. Now, maybe if I could just look at some of the highlights from this budget. Human capital development has been given about 8.7 trillion shillings, governance and security about 7 trillion shillings, transport and infrastructure about 4.1 trillion shillings, sustainable energy 1.6 trillion shillings, agro-industrialization 1.2 trillion shillings, private sector development about 1.5 trillion shillings, innovation technology 20.7 trillion shillings, community mobilization and main sites. It has also been given 73 billion shillings, and 30.7 trillion shillings will be going to if I also meanwhile look at this budget, 10 trillion shillings will be going to domestic financing, and about 10 trillion shillings basically of this budget will be financed by debt. And current figures show as of December 2021 our current debt stock stands at 73.5 trillion shillings. This and more as we also wait for the president's address tomorrow. He'll be addressing the nation, giving an economic update of the current situation in the country. Now, this and more will guide our discussion today, and as we look for solutions towards the current economic situation in the country, where we are seeing skyrocketing fuel prices. If on my way, I did notice that there are few cars on the road, meaning for the people who own cars, perhaps they cannot afford anymore to fuel them. So perhaps we shall, see more people walking on the road. And then we also continue to see prices of basic commodities, soap, sugar, bread. The prices are way too high, and the president has since advised that, if you cannot afford the bread, that from where I stay currently is about 5,600, then we are advised to eat cassava. But to put all this into perspective, I do have with me in studio Jen Nalunga, Executive Director, SEATINI. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Thank you so much, Rita, for having me, and good morning, our listeners.
I also do have Dr. Fred Muhumuza, development economist and also lecturer at Makerere University. Welcome to the show, Dr. Fred.
Thank you very much, Rita, and good morning, our listeners out there.
I also do have with me in studio Dr. Elly Twineyo, who is the Executive Director, Uganda Export Promotion Board. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you very much. What you have not said about Dr. Fred Muhumuza is that for more than 13 years, he was the senior economic advisor to the Minister of Finance.
Was it 13? It was 8, but once an advisor there, you continue. You do Senga's role, even after the girl has crossed over to her other side. So Senga's never retire.
Indeed. Dr. Muhumuza, we shall be waiting to hear from you as you continue to be a Senga to the government, what you're doing for us, because from where things are really hard.
Now, some things you don't blame the Senga because the implementation was on the girl herself and the husband.
But you see, when the Senga is doing a good job, somehow the girl will be well nurtured to do great things.
But then the man might not be doing the good job.
But at least the woman will somehow shape this man to be the better man she wants to be.
We are going to have an explanation of those things.
Ladies and gentlemen, owing to the budget that was just passed yesterday, and as we look forward to what the president will have to say tomorrow as he gives an update of what is happening in the country. He says he'll be paying special attention to the economic situation in the country. This comes at a time, indeed, Ugandans are really struggling to just buy food to eat for a day or even a week. We are seeing, like I said, people who own cars, they cannot buy fuel anymore to transport themselves. That's why we have noticed, actually the whole of this entire week, cars on the road are really very few. It comes at a time when we are seeing teachers, science teachers, doctors now on protesting because they're saying, look, we need more money because things are really getting tough. And this, of course, is affecting everyone. Corporate companies, they are scaling down because, there is no money. So at the end of the day, it's that worker or that employee that is suffering at the end of the day. I'll start with you, Jen. What do you make of this whole situation? I remember when we were here last time, we're talking about what needs to be done or what government should be looking at doing. And with the budget especially, does it offer any hope?
Okay. Thank you so much, Rita. The picture you are painting is really, it isn't a good picture anyway. Things are really, really tough. And for me, I think it's really, we need to look at this situation as business unusual. So when you look at the budget is almost like the usual budget. So much to human capital development, so much to security, so much to infrastructure, then some little money to agro-industrialization, So for me, I think we need to, before we cut the cake, we need to be clear what direction you want to take in order to address the challenges facing us, like you have pointed out, challenges of fuel, challenges of consumables, all those are challenges. And for me, I think we need to first of all sit and say, what do we need to do to get out of these challenges? For me, what I think we need to do is to look inwards. When the president said, let us eat cassava, it isn't new. It's people here who are eating bread. I don't think people in villages eat bread anyway, or even some areas in Kampala. People are eating either cassava, you do pancakes and all that. And I remember in our SEATINI, when the budget framework paper came out, we recommended that government should prioritize on the products. Instead of looking at the 14, in some documents there are 18 products, let us prioritize on about 4 products which government should look at. And in our prioritization, cassava was one of those strategic products because we said it's a food crop, but then it can be an industrial product. Looking at the backward and forward linkages, people can eat it, but it's an industrial product because you can get ethanol, you can use it in pharmaceuticals, you can use it to make paper boards and all that. So what I'm saying, one, is that in this situation, let us look at what do we need to do not business as usual. Saying PDM, we are looking at 14 products, we are doing that. What products should we look at? And how do we ensure that we strengthen those backward and forward linkages? I'm happy to see that my...
Mention it.
Okay, that Elly is here.
Mention it.
Because those are the chains we need to strengthen from production, value addition, and exporting. And that's why when you look at the increase in prices of soap and oil, and somebody tells us because of palm oil, which we are getting from Ukraine, yet we have sunflower, we have sim. We can be able to grow that. So what we need is to orient our mind and be able to put this money where we say this is the way forward, but it shouldn't be business as usual.
Dr. Muhumuza, when Jen talks of government looking inwards, I thought we were now past that thing. I thought this was the time for the budget to actually reflect what we are supposed to do. I look at the theme. It says industrialization for inclusive growth and employment and all that. Dr. Muhumuza, when you look at the budget that was just passed yesterday, many were laying its hope in that.
I don't think so, because quite often growth is a strategy issue, not a tactical issue. And quite often, annual budgets are tactical instruments, but they should be speaking to the long term. And for the last so many years, Uganda has been implementing a medium-term expenditure framework. Because the contract of the road you are signing today is going to last for the next 3 or even 4 years. So, meaning that if you sign on a road to be done today, that budget is also already dedicated into next year. That budget is already given for the next 3 or 4 years. It's going to be in there. So the budgets we are looking at, and that's why you see that payment of debt is going to 10 trillion, which is literally a big percentage of your budget, 25-35% of your budget. You have nothing to say about it, because it is feeding into the obligations you did when you borrowed money. You committed to pay that money back, so your current year's budget already is carrying that. Now, the same thing is true when you sign agreements for people to generate power. And it's in a contract, and you are saying, guys, if the power is not consumed, I will still pay you. You have committed your future budget. Now, I saw members of parliament are cutting part of the payment, saying this was meant to pay Lubowa Hospital and nothing is going on. Now, that's not how you handle it. You actually need to go and cancel the contract. If the person has failed to deliver on the contractual terms, begin a process that triggers cancellation of the contract. But you cannot say, I'm not going to pay you. As long as that contract is running, it's an obligation you have to do. Now, there are so many things you are going to say in a budget speech and a budget title. To say this is about financial inclusion, this is about agro-industrialization, but what are the realities that budget is addressing? Are completely saying a complete picture of what you're talking about. So when you look at the money you are going to put into roads, if you can't do feeder roads, it is crazy to give, or useless, to use another word, to give farmers planting materials. Because once the farmers plant their cassava, they will need that fuso, that pickup, or that border to come and pick the cassava and take it those who eat it. But now you have no budget for feeder roads. You have no budget for extension staff. You also have no budget for health workers. All these things are tied up together. Because this farmer is going to fall sick. So how will they weed the cassava that you gave them as cassava cuttings when they are sick? So before you know it, the weeds actually take over the garden because the person is sick and they can't get treated within that time. So the budget is comprehensive, but unfortunately the conceptualization of how economies grow is not in government. It's not even in among the people who are squabbling. You always hear people, my budget has been cut, but they don't want to see if it has been cut. Have your objectives been secured by where the budget has gone? We all know what happened 15 years ago. There was war in the north. None of those budgets was working literally because there was no security. You could not dig, you could not do roads, you could not do water, you could not do electricity. People were in camps. So it was an emergency to look after people in camps. Now, The president agreed towards the end of the 90s and said, you guys cut every budget and put it into defense. Now, the war shifted. Now, you move into those dynamics, but you should be looking at a longer time. So, for me, the principle of budgeting, planning, and development is where we have a fundamental flaw. So, it doesn't matter how much money we pump into the system, as long as the principles of planning and budgeting are not in place. You'll keep funding a small piece here and a small piece there. You also that video in Nakasek. So when you design a parish development model, really intended to strengthen the local governments, because this country decentralized in 1992, giving powers of to the local governments to implement the government projects, even supervise them. Now we have realized that failure to strengthen local government has been a big cost to the government, has been a big cost to development. So you design a parish development model with 7 pillars. Now ministers themselves think it is about financial inclusion. Everybody is debating the 100 million. Now for me, even if 100 million didn't go, and you send money for pillar 4, which is here put in as a human resource, those healthcare, that is education. And you put money for pillar 2, economic services infrastructure, which is roads, which is energy, which is water. Me and Twineyo, we don't need 100 million of government. We have our own money. We are ready to do our cows. But I cannot have my own extension service provider when my cows fall sick. So my own money, which I have already put there, is insecure, not giving me value. And I will not put it next time because there is no extension staff. So even if pillar 3 did not function, and you let all the other pillars function, the private sector will roll out more money than government is going to send out there. So that conceptualization, once you get it wrong, it doesn't matter what you do at the budget level, especially when you are dealing with the annual budgets. Now, this money going to the energy sector, the bulk of it is going to go into dimmed power. The people who we told generate power, and they have failed to sell it to anybody. We have even possibly failed to transmit it. So anybody looking at that money, you are not going to get any value out of it, because it is going the other side. You are going to begin transmission lines. Some of these may not happen because right of way, the land issues, or the implementation tricky issues. So you are not going to get value out of that. And we are saying we cannot address this by budget numbers or by an annual budget conversation. You want to go back and unearth what is happening in the energy sector. The last I saw, their policy is still draft since 2019. Their strategic plan is still neither here nor there, not yet officially approved. But you're throwing budgets to those areas. The fundamentals really is my concern.
Dr. Elly Twineyo, your thoughts on the budget that was just passed yesterday in Parliament?
When I was very young, I used to be maybe word cheeky. So when
Still young, my dear.
He said very young.
when I was still a pupil
As I got
at school, you know, there used to be those parents teachers meetings.
Yes, certainly.
And would be told to be very far away from, so we don't make noise, because these people are deliberating very serious things. So, but we would come slowly, and then we eavesdropping. So, and I was overhearing, and there was a meeting, and then they asked one of the parents. They said after somebody like now, after Dr. Fred Muhumuza and Jane Nalunga have already talked. So they said, for you, John, what are you saying? Then he says, for me, I have nothing to say. I actually want what Mzee Fred has said is what I wanted to say. So what these guys have already said reflects the true picture of what is happening to the budget, but also the long-term planning. In summary, what I'm saying is that we should not look at just the budget written of that will be passed. It is more that we look at how does Uganda achieve long-term objectives. It is so important. Jane has said it, Freddie has said it, because how do countries develop? Countries develop by really looking ahead. Companies also develop, companies also grow by looking ahead. And sometimes as I think the founder of General Motors, I think, when asked about a strategic plan, when they asked that, do you sometimes do speculation and guesswork? He told them, yeah, he said, if we are not doing that, why would we make strategic plans? Because strategic plans with some good deep analysis, there is an element also of speculation and real and guesswork. But again, we shouldn't stop doing this because that's how companies can develop. Mm-hmm. Now, if we are going to develop this economy, to me, there are maybe 3 or 4 things. One, and everybody is saying, most people avoid it, is the issue of production and value addition, with the aim of producing more to for industrialization. Jen started very well talking about the issue. Other people have been joking about cassava and how the president has said it, and others are saying, me actually somebody who promotes good health and dieting, I think people should be running away from wheat and bread and gluten, going towards actually products like our yams, our potatoes, Irish but not chips, and cassava, and always and karo, and in moderation. But also we should be adding value to them, as Jen said. Cassava, industrial starch, pepper, wall hangings, and all these that come out of it will make us richer. So therefore, planning, let's look at what we want ahead. We need human resource development. You look at health, you look at education, and education, we need skills. We need technical education. I think our obsession sometimes with the universities that we have that are so teaching on a theory and there's no practice will take us nowhere. China passes out 5 million technical degrees every year. Germany started that way. You have some people who don't have higher levels of speaking sophisticated German and English or whatever, but who are successful machine bar, mechanics and that. The next one that is important, so we have production, we have human resource management. The next one, therefore, is the importance of markets. The importance of markets. We must encourage people to produce for the markets. If we remain in subsistence, if we don't encourage people to produce for the market, how I wish people should produce products that they don't consume at home, because then they have the imperative to send them to the market and buy from the market what they can eat. But we did have a side discussion in the commercial break with Jen. But the other important aspect is that from the market you get money, and then you can buy other basic needs of life. Now, for you to achieve this, the government has come up with different aspects, including the parish development model. The parish development model, in my view, is very important if well implemented. Because this is an attempt to commercialize agriculture and value addition. This is an attempt to have quantities produced, and we hope it will be quality, and we can know that we have so much produced in a certain area. This is an attempt to enable people to be able to have money in their pockets and buy their own health requirements, but also pay children's school fees. I am one person who believed that UPE was not for everybody. UPE, but everybody went for it. That even those who can afford decided to go for UPE, and you crowded it. And after you crowded it, now you are saying it is not doing well. Because societies develop because of the market and the private sector.
Dr. Elly, you hold your point just right there. When you talked about UPE, government is actually considering reviewing some of the charges these schools, UPE and USE, pay. We shall go for a break and return in a short while. 933 KFM. Welcome back. It is the VPN. Rita Kemgisa is my name. Today we are talking about solutions towards this economic situation in the country. And with me in studio, I do have Dr. Muhumuza, who is a development economist and also lecturer at Makerere University. I do have Dr. Elly Twineyo, who is Executive Director, Uganda Export Promotion Board, and Jen Nalunga, Executive Director, SEATINI. Before we went for a break, Dr. Elly Twineyo was looking at some of the things he thinks can help Uganda achieve that long objective. And he was talking about production and all those things you're talking about. Dr. Muhumuza, as the singer to the power that be.
Koja, they also kojas, by
the
the way.
koja, oh, the koja.
Sengo musajja.
Koja, the koja. I think that's how it should be. Koja, sengo musajja.
But they koja, do they go to the girl or they don't?
No.
They go to the boy.
In this case, the girl is very, very fundamental to these things we are discussing.
It's good.
But now we are raising the boy child.
But yeah,
Was
the boy
not
child
well
is
groomed.
And the good thing, you're koja to the man, to the president and the various ministers in different positions and all that. We've been talking about how we can achieve these long-term objectives. But a typical Ugandan out there, for them all they want to hear is, how do they get money in their pockets, Doctor? You talk about these good things of investing this and that, markets, what. But a real Ugandan all they want is, I want money in my pockets.
Of course, as we've said, you may want money in your pockets. What government does will determine possibly 30 or 40% of that, whether you'll get money in your pockets. I have an auntie in the village, and she's stopped even raising chicken, local chicken. Because whatever she raises at her home, thieves come and take it.
Everywhere.
She had a cow, they took it. She had goats, they took them. She had chicken. Now, the few chicken, she had to sleep with them in the house. But whenever she would leave to go to church, they come and pick them. Now, how do you get money in your pocket? We can tell you do a poultry project at your local home. If government is not functioning, you're still not going to put that money in your pocket. Your neighbors or thieves will put your money in their pockets. So to begin with, government must function. And we had these models or thinkings and plans informing the government plans and budgeting in the 90s. And I think Professor Suruma had this under his sub-county model, where he said, what can households do? So you want to give the households education, you want to give them health. That's basic things that you must strengthen, the human resource capacity and skills. For them to go and say, I want to start a salon here, I want to ride a border, I want to dig cassava and be able to sell it. That's how they put money in their pockets. But to do that, there is the community infrastructure that must be surrounding. Part of it is administrative. That there must be that sub-county chief. There must be a chief administrative officer of the district, a district engineer, the people who are going to do those roads for us, things I can't give myself as a person, but I need them to put money in my pocket. I need them to secure my own investment as a person. So how are people going to put money in their pockets? We can advise them, and really I have found very many Ugandans genuinely struggling to put money in their pockets. They have done everything there is to do. Some of them including going abroad, to work abroad. They are, no matter how hard the conditions are, it is the only option they have. You've seen people lining up for passports, people are lining up for national IDs, people are lining up to do mobile money. People are doing all sorts of things to really put money in their pockets. But the system seems not to be working. Now, the macroeconomics, and most people are asking, what is macroeconomics? Now everybody, I think, understands what macroeconomics is. Because even as you have money in your pocket, it is being robbed overnight. Every time you come and find fuel has gone up. You had 10,000, you thought you would get 3 liters. Now you can only get less than 2. Now it is like somebody came overnight and stole money from your wallet, where you thought you would get 3 liters. So that's what inflation does. It robs people of their power, the power of their incomes, the power of your business. And if your business can't grow to catch up with the inflationary pressures that's putting on your budget, your money is being taken away. So those are the kinds of things you want to say. How is the macro? Now the macro, I will compare it to be like a tent. We all sit under tents in wedding meetings or burials. And we are comfortable chatting with each other and talking away things. But because that tent is holding, the moment somebody carries off that tent, which is the macroeconomics, it hits everybody. It doesn't matter whether you work in security, whether you drive a car, you ride a border, or you walk, inflation will hit everybody. High interest rates will hit everybody, even if you don't borrow. The people you buy things from borrowed to produce those things, and they want to recover that bank loan by increasing the price on you. And if their business is closed, you will not have that service because the business will collapse. So these are the things we are facing, that an individual is part of an ecosystem. COVID anywhere is COVID everywhere. So a disruption anywhere will affect everybody. So even when you see that border rider He's trying to put money in his pocket. But the things he does not know that people are supposed to do and they are not doing are going to affect him. If you are going to sign another Vinci coffee deal, you're going to sign another Lubowa deal, you're going to borrow 200 million to do the airport. This guy may never use the airport. But servicing that loan is going to cost him a malaria dose. Now he's going to have to sell his goat to go and treat his child because there are no drugs at the health facility. Now the allied health workers are on strike. So where are the citizens going for this 1 week? Certainly private health care. And there they are paying. They are saying off their checking. They are getting money out of their pocket instead of getting money into their pockets for a problem that was never theirs, but because government somewhere did not do the right kind of planning. So I think these are the conversations we want to have. The question of how can a person put money in their pocket? It's two sides of that coin. The head side is this person, what are you doing yourself? The tail side is government.
Jen, when Dr. Muhumuza talked about, of course, having systems that are not working, I want to take you just a little bit back. When the economy fully reopened this year, there was hope, of course, amongst all of us, the business community, even as the workers here, the whole economy, entirely all of us, even those who were closed for 2 years, there was hope that, hoping that we shall sail through. But now things seem to be now stagnant. And government is blaming, of course, the war in Ukraine and COVID, that said, But is this the point that we should be looking at? Where has the government gone wrong?
Okay. There was hope. There is still hope. 2 weeks back, I was in Kalisizo, in Masaka, inside some villages there. And I saw people with hope in coffee. And I saw people buying coffee, a seedling, is it cutting, cutting what? Buying it between 2,000 and 3,000 shillings. And people having hope, saying that, in an acre you plant so many trees and on each tree you can get so much. And I talked to a farmer who had bought fertilizers of 7 million to put in his coffee garden.
A big farm.
No, and normal person, So there is hope in some products. And I want to go back to what Elly raised, the issue of markets. And for me, what I believe is that if we are to get out of poverty and we are looking at production, and I have been saying this over and over again, we start from the market. The market has to be clear and you work backwards. The beauty about coffee is that the market is there. But when you see the scrabble around the Vinci agreement, it was also Screen 18, that coffee is not enough. So there is a market for coffee. And what I think is that we need to put our money as Uganda, as government, in products which give people hope. And coffee, for me, I think is one of them. Looking at inputs. For example, not so many people can buy one seedling of coffee at 2,500. And when I was talking to those people, they were saying, good seedlings are very expensive. Operation was creation.
The grafted ones.
That operation was creation. They don't know what happened to it, So what I'm saying, we need to work backwards. Let us secure markets. And I have been giving an example of Kenya and avocado. Kenya secured a market in China of avocados. And they discussed even the quality, the quantities, and they agreed. And now they are supplying those avocados backward, they mobilize the producers. That in Kenya, and I understand even Uganda is producing avocado to that effect, to the extent that even a farmer, even if you plant 10 avocado trees, somebody will come and buy them. So we need to mobilize our production according to the market we have. And the markets are there. And I don't know what Elly is doing, but I was reading that the Parliament is not going to give you any money, that you don't have a board. I have been fighting for Elly. The other time they gave you just 2 billion and I was saying, this is very little money. But then I hear you are not going to get any money, that you don't have a board and all that. And then I'm saying, if we can't fund our Uganda Export Promotion Board, then why are we producing? Because markets are very, very important, and we are failing in that. We are producing, and for me that's where I don't understand the PDM, to produce without markets. Then too, another issue which is really important, what Dr. Muhumuza raised, the issue of energy. In Parliament there was an issue of when they were looking at the income tax bills about Bujagali. They were saying Bujagali, they want to extend the exemption for another 5 years. So the issue, they said no, don't extend, and I agree anyway. But what I recommended to Parliament was that, when they unbundled umeme into generation, transmission, distribution and all that, there is a challenge in the energy sector. And the point Dr. Muhumuza raised is very important, that government is paying for even the surplus, what we are not consuming, and that when you look at this budget of energy, maybe some of that money goes to pay that. So the whole issue is the energy sector. How is it managed? Because today, all of us here, I don't know whether there's anybody who cooks their food, matoke, on electricity. No.
Perhaps Dr. Muhumuza.
The bourgeoisie.
Actually, as an economist, I think I was the first to leave. I calculate my pennies and pounds very, very consciously.
You see? So we are using charcoal, we are using firewood.
I'm even trying to find an alternative to charcoal, gas. I'm calculating, really.
So it has an impact also on the climate. So let us look at the energy sector. Is it okay? And remember today's the contract, there are issues, but I think before, let us not look at the individual, that Bujagali, the tax exemption, and let us look at the entire issue. And maybe another issue which is really important is the regional approach. We have been talking about packaging. We talked about here in the break about the coffee. We have good coffee. And I won't report this organization, but we have good coffee as Ugandan coffee, The other time we were launching a book by Professor Rwanga Runyigo, very good book on whether we are still Uganda and Indian colony, and the issue of coffee came up, and Honorable Nandala gave a very passionate speech about coffee. But the packaging is failing us, and we are saying here it will be difficult for a company to put up an industry here for just packaging, all those foils and all that, because the market is small. Then we need to look at a regional approach to industrialization, but also to production. So when we say that the ESC has broadened, DRC is on board, then Sudan is on board, what does that mean? For me, I think we need to look at it in terms of production, in terms of industrialization, because when you look at the East African community, we have what we need, whether oil, whether what, and we have the market. So we need also to look at that regional approach, because we are now going into the entire continental free trade area. What does that mean for us to get out of our challenges?
Dr. Elly, do you want to respond to Nalunga? Because I remember even the last time you were here, I expressed similar sentiments about funding to the board. And then the other thing, you're rooting, for production and value addition. And when I was looking at, the budget allocation for agro-industrialization, it's just 1.2 trillion shillings out of the entire 48.1 trillion shilling. Where does this leave then the dream?
When we leave the microphone and this room, I have to have a discussion with Dr. Fred Muhumuza, the Koja of the Minister of Finance and Planning, which also has National Planning Authority, especially on the realignment of the programs, and it is important that we discuss that. And I think he implied it when he was beginning. He said the problem is not this current budget.
Yes.
No, it is the
planning.
Because
but also promise the listeners that the conversation when we are off air will eventually be fed into the on air.
yes, yeah. So it will be consultation, so that we prepare that we bring it to, so that we bring it back and you get it. But let me talk about now, and you see, me and Jane, we come very long journey. And Jane, you see, has been on the issues of trade for a long time. When she left Bank of Uganda, she's been in good places. She went on an advocacy of trade, because very few people in Uganda, before even Jane started it, we didn't know the importance of trade and markets. And sometimes whenever Jane would be complaining, even about policies from the World Trade Organization and others, they thought she was a loud noise maker, because said she's making noise and what. If you don't think about production and where you and the markets for you, how are you getting people out of poverty? How? Which other method can you do to get people out of poverty?
But clearly, the government is not thinking that way.
Now,
with this 1.2 trillion shillings.
So when then I come from Jen, then I go to Rita, who I met, and she disappeared from me also. But now we have to be back. The issue of markets are important. And all countries, and Freddie will tell you that all countries that have developed, there is what we call the role of the state. One of the roles of the state, which the other people call it also industrial policy, all developing countries that have developed, in fact, sometimes Muhumuza might kill me on the microphone when I say that I think even Adam Smith, called the father of political economy and also economics, who discouraged Americans from engaging in industrialization, could have been a selfish Briton who had wanted to discourage the Americans so that they remain as a catchment market
for the
Europeans. People fight for markets. Big countries fight countries.
I think
have you read Professor Yashi's book, Trade is War?
Exactly.
Yes.
Markets are fought for.
The markets are fought for.
Even after you have negotiated,
yes,
you have to fight.
To keep there and to make sure that you are there. So the issue of markets is a government role. Companies trade, but governments... No, companies do business, but governments trade.
Yeah.
Hey, companies do business. Who trades is government. And because governments trade, when you are talking of the performance of the economy, you talk about production, domestic production, you talk about taxes, you talk about exports and markets. And I am happy that the president has been at it. And I am not the paid spokesperson of government. I am just allowed. I'm allowed to speak from Uganda Export Promotion Board. I can speak for that.
Speaking for them, then how is the government faring in that?
The president. I want to thank the president on live on radio. Last year he wrote a letter saying they should give us a directive, additional money. He wrote a letter under his signature they should give us additional money. But as you know, once you know how government you go to this one, you even say the letter is here, and the letter was written to the Minister of Finance. We got a copy. So the president is because he's interested in markets. As you see, even this when he talks about integration, it is markets and security. And those are two. You need security, you need markets. So the president has been supporting us, and we will keep to advocate, as Jen says, with the Minister of Finance to make sure that we get money. We will keep. I am happy that the new people in finance, the PSST, Ramadan Gobi, understands the importance of markets, understands production. And therefore, but of course it has to be the team. All of them with the other people. So I'm talking to these people behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. As you see, even Parliament understands it. Parliament gave us a drop in the ocean, but something additional 3.3 billion. One, to recruit more people. Two, to undertake export promotion activities. It is not enough. In fact, it is just a drop in the ocean. What has been good for me there is that they allowed us to recruit more people, because then you get the people to go in the field and work. The second aspect that has been important there is that, Dr. Fred Muhumuza will tell you the challenge we have been having is the mergers. Since 2018, the process of mergers started, and I have been telling them, please, if you have to merge, finish this so that we can do work.
That uncertainty.
Yes. Because the uncertainty has been a challenge. When you hear Jen asking about the board, Parliament was saying we should not even fund export. If you don't want export promotion board, and they didn't say it against, they were showing the emotion that we need markets. In fact, Honorable Ekanya said we have gone to DR to fight wars and remove the Suja. Operation Shuja, to help that people get peace and engage in production in DR Congo. Now you want other countries to go there and penetrate markets, and therefore that's why you don't need to promote exports. So he was very passionate about it. The challenge that we have been seeing, economists in the Ministry of Finance have been looking at how to reduce debt and pay amortizations, how to fund. Of course, they have to fund to pay our salaries, but they have not been seeing it the way Jen sees it and Freddy. They need for production, and production geared to the market, because then that increases, one, household incomes, two, GDP, three, export receipts. So, but we have been robbing, and let me mention this, because I'm not going forever to be in export promotion. And maybe the president, in his wisdom, could tomorrow appoint me anything big. But if, I'm telling you,
bigger, because it's already bigger.
No, but let's put a caveat there. He should never. He's not going to be in export promotion board, the institution.
Yes.
But you are going to remain in export promotion, the space.
Yes.
There I can't afford to let you go.
Exactly.
Or else I will be the koja and disappoint the something big you're thinking about.
Yes.
Dr. Elly, as
I
you
will be
wait
happy if I leave with
as
that.
you wait for that big appointment, we shall take a break and pray for it first.
Rita, you're putting emphasis.
News, VPN, keeping you up to date and informed. VPN. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back. It is the VPN. Rita Kemgisa is my name. Today we are talking about solutions to the current economic situation in the country. And with me in studio, I do have Jen Nalunga, Executive Director, SEATINI. I have Dr. Fred Muhumuza, a development economist and also a lecturer at Makerere University. I also do have Dr. Elly Twineyo, Executive Director, Uganda Export Promotion Board. I'll start with you, Dr. Muhumuza. Now, from now, of course, until tomorrow, many of the Ugandans are eagerly anticipating to hear what the president will say. It could be a presidential directive. I mean, we have seen Tanzania do it, especially on the fuel prices. We have seen them put up subsidies and all that. So many Ugandans are still hoping that perhaps there could be change in the president's speech tomorrow, vis-a-vis what he has been saying over time. And since you've been at this cojaring job for such a long time, advising, and yourself being a development economist over time, one wonders, using your expertise over time, what directives have been made or measures have been put in place to ensure that the economy is up and running and we don't have what we see today?
Yeah, thank you, Rita. Constitutionally, the president is the Minister of Finance. And this week we had the person who stands in for him in that portfolio in a delegated function make a statement on these issues, Honorable Kasaija. And he said we can't do much about this. So that's already a precursor on what we should expect the president to say tomorrow. And that's what I would technically expect and advise. Because you don't want to say something that you cannot sustain. We all parents would have wanted our children to be in good schools, especially in the times when Jane Nalunga and Twineyo and myself went to school. There were good schools, and then there were schools, and then there were replicas of schools. Now, some of us were in replicas of schools, where you go and you are really smarter than your teacher. You are there, was in P7, and somebody passes with a first grade, but this person has been in P7 for 3 years, repeating. So I was wondering whether he's passing through experience or his own brain and knowledge and between him and the teacher. So there are realities on the ground, that's what I'm saying. You live by them. You're not going to push your parents and say, no, you must take me there, when you know it cannot be sustained. The other day we saw that inflation in the US hit a level that it was last on in 1982, a 40-year high. Britain yesterday did exactly the same thing this week. The inflation hit 9%, and were last there 40 years ago. So you're looking at that as a global issue. And tiny Uganda, what we always say in economics, you are an open, small economy in a global setting. You are a price taker. Muhumuza, I'm not going to walk into a supermarket and begin to debate the price of bread or the price of sugar. I'm a price taker. Even at the butchery, I have to take the price I find there. So we are at a level where inflation that is being driven by global forces, we have just to be price takers. Now you can lie yourself and say, I will moderate my people, let's remove taxes on fuel. Then how do you fund this budget, which is already constrained in its own sense? You will fail to fund it. And how do you maintain the subsidy? But also in the economics of subsidies, price increases hurt the poor most. So you don't want to help Twineyo and Jane Nalunga and Muhumuza by subsidizing fuel. We will not pass on that benefit to the poor people. Even when a bus receives fuel at a lower price, don't expect passengers to pay less. They will not.
So maybe for clarity there, Dr. Muhumuza, when what you're trying to say is having these subsidies in place, there's no way they can have a ripple effect on perhaps the final price of goods, because
they will not get there because of the transmission mechanism. They will be absorbed by those who receive them immediately, and they will never pass them on. Now, the recommendation we usually do in economics is a direct injection. You know, like when you can no longer eat, doctors will push that tube into your and deposit the food directly in the stomach. They might even feed you through IV. They put a drip and put the nutrients right in the drip. So you want to go and say, where exactly is the problem? Let me send the injection directly there. So if we had money, you would recommend for another round of Nabanja 100,000. Send it directly to the poor people. I'm saying if we had money and if we had labored to streamline those systems. Because in Uganda, we respond to crisis. Remember, COVID came, we tried to find them food. We never found where the food was. Then the military came and helped. Then we show them jumping Miala. This is why people are sleeping, really. They have to jump a mile of sewage in order to find them. Then you find this mother with 7 children to feed, and you are wondering, okay, do we give her 5 kilos or 10 kilos? Going by the need you are finding there. But we should have streamlined this thing under social protection policies, which we do not have. And their implementation, we should now be knowing where are our poor. And now with mobile money, you should be able to link that system. But that requires a database. And as we said, you can analyze it. You can come on our phones. You'll find Muhumuza, when he's paying things, he's moving 40,000, 50,000, not eligible. But there are people really, their mobile money is in 2 digits, 3 digits. Those ones are eligible. But you want to do that before such a crisis. Now, this would be the time to say, let's find some 20 billion or 50 billion, directly send it to these people. Because I can't lower the price of soap, but I've sent you money to be able to buy that soap. I can't lower the price of this, and you increase their flexibility. So the lack of social protection policy, is what is skyrocketing this. So I don't expect the president to come and intervene from above, because the intervention is written right at the bottom of the pyramid, and we can't get there.
And what other measures as well as you look at all this? Maybe Jane Nalunga, if you could.
Now, at the top level, as Jane comes in, and this is to do with trade. And the monitor sometimes does very many crazy things. The bad paper does good things. You guys have just put in here something on money laundering. Sometimes we say our shilling is too strong and undermining our exports. But what is making our shilling strong? If money laundering is coming into our system, it will keep the shilling strong using dollars that are not related to the economy. And they will be undermining the economy. So the stability of the exchange rate, this is why I think Bank of Uganda has done well to make sure the exchange rate does not depreciate that fast, because if it did, you are going to have another problem of fuel prices going to 6,000 or 7,000. So real at macro level, there is something that is being done to stabilize the shilling. But remember, you want to do that for a short-term measure. Because over the long term, it is going to make Uganda an importing country and not an exporting country. And there are these analyses that the Minister of Finance did. As we say, sometimes the Kojas are not listened to, but at least they are put their evidence on the table. I'll be reading the figures shortly as we come out late after Jen, because I don't want to eat her space. On the analysis Minister of Finance did last year, to show that if there is a 10% increase in the import price, this is how it will affect the revenues URAPICs. This is how it will affect the government expenditure. This is how it will distort the economy. Now, they are talking of a 10% increase. Now, we all know that fuel prices are at a 40% increase from where they were when this analysis was done. Is anybody doing that thought? Jane?
Jen, of course, like Dr. Muhumuza said, we may not expect so much from the president, but at the end of the day, we expect him to, he has to make solutions for all of us.
Yeah, he has to make solutions, but we also need to give him some pointers because we are the people on the ground, you know. But I want to go back to the issue which Dr. Muhumuza has raised. There are words which send shocks in my body, that we are an open small economy.
Exactly.
Open and small.
Yes.
We are.
In fact, you are an antelope where the lions live.
And that we are price takers. Yes. And we are, you know, there are global forces which we can't, you know, which are. For me, I want to differ on some of these issues. When you say open, you know, like we have been talking about policies, about negotiations. Openness is not God-given that we are an open economy. We have opened up because we have, maybe World Bank has forced us, maybe we have wished to do so, you know. So we can be able to work on the openness and also on the price taker. I don't see why today we are saying our soap has increased because of the Ukraine war. Yet, because I remember that the statement which came out from the Ministry of Finance was saying because of the Ukraine war, we can't import palm oil, which we use in our soap, but we have given Kalangala the entire our forest to grow palm oil. And
it was just 7,000 hectares of acres.
You want to go back and say, was it about growing palm oil or harvesting the mature trees?
The trees, you know. So we need to look at that. And we need to be able, when I say looking inwards,
we'll talk about that.
When we say looking inwards, we are looking at, because they told us sunflower. You know, we import also sunflower oil. You know, why should we import sunflower oil when we can be able to grow sunflower, but also export it? Because we export some little sunflower. Issues of sesame. And so for me, I think we need a rethink about our economic policies. Where should we be open or not? And that's why we have the Ministry of Trade to negotiate what comes in and what shouldn't come in. And that's what they are doing when it comes to the CET, our external, the community external tariff as ESC, because it has been increased to ensure that we protect some products. So we need to rethink. And when we say small economy, that's why we are going into regional integration. That's why DRC is coming on board, so that we can be able to be stronger. That's why we are saying we need to come together, not as East Africa alone, but as SADC, as COMESA. I know, Elly, you have been in those negotiations over the tripartite. So we need really to rethink our economies. And I also want to go back to the issue of the Ministry of Trade. You know, Ministry of Trade is critical. But when you look at the consecutive budgets, it's almost like it's not there. I was calculating the money from agro-industrialization because they have lumped them together. It's almost like about 500 billion to Ministry of Trade only. I was looking at the trade policy. We are talking about exporting. There is no trade policy. It ended in 2018. That's when it ended.
Jen, without interjecting, at one time the Minister of Trade had only a budget of 27 billion, and it is not long ago, 27 billion, including all salaries.
Can you imagine?
27 billion.
And we are talking about increasing production, industrialization, cooperatives and trading. Then too, I think, Dr. Muhumuza, we need to reassess this programming. The budget programming. When you look at it, for example, agro-industrialization, there are some monies which go to finance, other monies go to foreign affairs, other monies go where? When you look at, for example, the money for private sector development, all that money is in Ministry of Finance. I am not saying I don't like Ministry of Finance, this is a fact. And you look at Ministry of Finance, private sector development.
And it lives through subventions to PSFU, lives through subventions to UIA.
Then,
so it's not even in the ministry as a ministry, but it's in the ministry's docket.
But then you find under Ministry of Finance, the competition policy, all those policies are in Ministry of Finance. And then you say, what does a competition policy have to do with finance? This is trade. So I think we need to rethink even the way we are programming. Those of you who have done history, when you look at countries like Japan, how they developed up after the war, it was through trade. The most important ministry was called MITI.
Ministry,
MITI. The MITI minister was like the president. Ministry of Industry and Trade, Ministry of Trade and Industry. That was the basis of the industrialization of Japan and the growth of Japan.
Without interjecting, even South Korea, even in China. All this, even USA.
Yes. But now you look at it. Lastly, I want to advise my Elly.
Leave it at that.
At the advice or at her Elly?
At her Elly.
Is it possible when you are looking at markets to look at products? I remember one time we were discussing the issue of SIM about the market in United Arab Emirates, in China, and they were telling us, Chinese, they want SIM. But that link between the markets, in fact, that's why we partnered with our Ministry of Trade and UNBS, and we came up with a SIM standard. We didn't have any here because it's it's those cash cows, and it's also a food crop, but it's also, we can get oil out of it, we can make soap, we can make OD, but we can also export it. So those are some of the issues you can look at it, so that we get this market. We know China or United Arab Emirates want so many, and we mobilize. We mobilize UNBS, the standards. What I'm saying is we need to give people hope. We need to give people hope that they can be able to produce, they can be able to have a market, and they can be able to have some little income in their pockets. And for me, I think that's living in dignity, so that people don't beg. People. You talked about insecurity in the village. Yesterday, the other day, my sister-in-law, she stays in Kasanda there. She rang me and told me, Jane, my chicken is gone, my ducks are gone, my small goat has been taken, And she was telling me that's the whole issue, the entire village, because people there is no, maybe it goes back also to security and all that, the systems, but also the issue of lack of income.
Jen, as we build this hope, you said we need to rethink, come up stronger and build this resilience. Dr. Elly, you know you authored this book, Why Africa Fails. And from the look of things, looks like Uganda, we are failing.
No.
Yourself at the Export Promotion Board, you're failing to hit the target of, just the 20 million bags of coffee and all that. The president, I'm sure, and his handlers, as they listen into this show, you may want to advise the president on what he can do or address to balance this board.
Let me say unequivocally, categorically, that Uganda is doing well and has done well over time, as all will agree. What we are going through is, in what they call it, the light skirmishes. These just bullets. When you hear it, and there's a bullet. These are light skirmishes.
But that's how snipers operate. They send one bullet, but to a very strategic point, your heart, and you're gone.
We will make sure they are not snipers. So the economy has been resilient. The other time I was addressing UBC, giving an interview to UBC, and I talked about how businesses can get out of the whole situation where we are and economies. And actually, it appears then UBS actually went ahead and got, I think, some statistics, I don't know whether from World Bank, which it seemed that they were attributed to me. And I am told, even since UBC, the president listens to UBC. And he's concerned about figures, and I'm told he inquired about it.
By the way, that is very true.
You
can proceed.
Yes, I didn't know that but I'm told he does. So it almost brought me in bad light, and I had to call for another interview to explain to them that I knew the figures and that I never gave them figures. The economy is currently has been at around coming to 41 billion, 40.7 billion US dollars, but it is projected to June and after to be more than over 44 billion US dollars. And the economy began from 5 billion. So there is progress. The challenge that I must emphasize is that we are a price taker. So we cannot change that because we're a small economy. But I'll tell Jen what we'll do later on. But what we need to do is encourage production for the market. What we need to do is to rethink and look again at those commodities that we produce and add value up to manufacturing, which therefore create jobs from the farm up to the export market, up to the domestic market. We have, reliance on Ukraine and Russia is unfair to Uganda. Uganda can produce many things. So we need to produce certain products that we can add value to and do it. Maybe that's what the president meant when he said that we should look at cassava, because cassava you can do many things, and Jen has already told you. If we rethink, maybe the Parish model, if it is done very well and everybody produces the right thing, Uganda will produce more money. And me, I'm not talking about agriculture. I'm talking that becomes agro-industrialization. That becomes agriculture and value addition. So it is agriculture, but progressive agriculture. It is agriculture, but commercial agriculture. Because subsistence agriculture, we can't get out of poverty because of commercial agriculture. And therefore, I want to re-echo what Freddie has said. Maybe we look more at coordination, the issues of coordination failure, not market failure. In other words, for coordination failure, we are not saying that we should, because if anyone tells you that the president, I don't know, because I'm not the advisor of the president, if he says he's going to subsidize prices, we are entering debt, and very bad debt immediately, and it should be avoided. I am telling it on record. The president, in his speech, should not subsidize any commodity because we are entering bad debt. And I don't know how we'll get out of it without collecting taxes and expanding the economy.
We are already in a bad debt situation, so
but-
we will
but
not be
then
entering.
Eh?
We will be going deeper.
But then it means that give people what is due to them. If people are producing maize, today you tell me what's the price of
That's
maize.
why I'm saying now what we should be emphasizing is the issue of coordination. We should address some coordination failures in different places, but we should not fix prices, neither should we subsidize prices because we will not get out.
Ladies and
will you get the money to
gentlemen,
do
we
so?
shall go for a short commercial break.
Exactly.
Welcome back. The discussions that happen off the air.
We
Well,
discuss
you know what?
small economy in a global space.
Welcome back. It is still the VPN. My name is Rita Kemgisa, and today we are talking about looking at solutions to the current economic situation. And with me in studio, I do have Dr. Elly Twineyo, Executive Director, Uganda Export Promotion Board, Dr. Fred Muhumuza, Development Economist and Lecturer at Makerere University. I also have Jen Nalunga, Executive Director, SEATINI. Before we went in for a break, Dr. Elly was actually warning the president not to dare give any subsidies because we shall get into deeper debt.
Advising.
I was advising. Rita, I have no power even to warn a minister. Rita, you want to do me through?
All right, I don't want you to lose the next appointment, so you advise.
And a bigger one. A bigger
actually, I was
appointment.
sounding that whoever, because it is not the president, it is Minister of Finance, as Dr. Fred Muhumuza tells you, who will should be helping and the technical people that they should not fix prices, they should not subsidize prices, and records are available that if we do that, where will they get the money? They will borrow the money, isn't it?
And
You
indeed,
enter more debt.
and the current public debt stock stands at 73.5%. And yesterday, when the Budget Committee Chairperson Patrick Isyangi, when he was presenting this budget, he did reveal that they project the debt will actually grow by 53% in the forthcoming financial year 2022-2023. I want to start with you, Dr. Fred Muhumuza. Earlier, you promised to give us, first of all, some numbers, but instead we are also still looking at solutions on what we need to do to have this economy up and running again.
I think let's first sort out Jane with the realities. It is one thing to imagine and wish. And indeed, her wishes is what really builds a nation. You want to say, I want to be a doctor, but you are still in primary 3. And all you're doing is adding 3, and you work towards that. But at that point in time, you are a price taker.
We'll discuss that.
Because Uganda cannot determine the price of oil. On that, we are a price taker. We cannot determine the price of Panadol. We are a price taker.
No.
Even Pfizer, you have a super job at KFM these days. Those are not for discussion. And those are the realities we have. So even as the president comes to speak tomorrow, he's not addressing issues in that speech of 2040 and 2035. He's trying to address the current situation. And the current situation is determined by where we are now. And that's what we'll be speaking to. But as we have had in the conversation, that should not stop him saying, how did we get here? How do we get out of here? Because 10 years ago, we thought by giving land of Kalangara to somebody, they would save us this burden. Right now, wouldn't be quarreling about cooking oil prices going up. Would actually be celebrating because we would be an exporter.
Exactly.
But now at this point, we are a price taker. On the buying side, you want to be even a price taker like we are in coffee, but on the selling side. Because even in coffee, we're a price taker. We don't determine the international price for coffee. Now that's why we're saying you're a small economy in an open global world. And I've seen that video of, I think, the late Nyerere, where he was saying, you don't put lightweight and heavyweight, and people were cheering. You should have your own space. No, this is a jungle law. It's a global village. It's a global market. As long as our drugs are going to come from out there, our fuel from out there, our spare parts from out there, we don't even make a border. We don't make shoes. At this point in time where we are, you cannot close your economy. You cannot determine, you have to fit in there. So Nyerere was being cheered. But actually, you are living in a space where it is like a national park. There is no gazetted place for lions and then for cobs.
That's true.
And then for hyenas and cheetahs. No, it's the same space. But in that space, the antelopes have found how to survive. That over millennia, they have actually multiplied more than the lions.
That's true.
So how do you survive in that mess where Ukraine and Russia will fight? Whether you like it or not, your bread is going to go up. Your fuel prices are going to go
We
up.
don't have to eat that
And
bread.
we are using the dollar to import things. Now, you have nothing to eat. The Russians haven't said you must eat our wheat. They haven't stopped you from eating your cassava. It is your own internal weaknesses and dynamics that have failed you to eat your cassava. That you can't find it. You can't find your bogoya. You can't find your own soybean. Kabarole is very good for soybean. We have had a vegetable oil seeds for northern Uganda for years. Very good area to grow sunflower, simsim, soybean. Why is it not happening?
Planning.
These are our own internal things. But the president now cannot speak to those tomorrow, but he needs to speak to them, not in that speech, but say, you, my officials, how did we get here? Because now we should be selling sunflower. Soybean is a big, big global trade. We have been here in the break discussing about cocoa. And I've been involved in promoting cocoa. Countries like Cote d'Ivoire, they shifted long ago from coffee. Coffee is, with all the best export of coffee we did last year, $600 million. That is 1 month of imports for Uganda. So all your coffee that you sell in 12 months can only support Uganda's import bill by 1 month. So what do you do with the other 9 months? You scavenge in tourism, you scavenge in gold, really scavenging, because none of this is within your total control. But can you grow your own cocoa and add to coffee and add to fish? Because those are within your power. Once you have them, then you can go and confront the global prices. Even the cocoa people, I was hearing people saying, they get only 5%, is it 6%, 10% or 6% of the global trade of cocoa. But that 6% for Cote d'Ivoire alone is $4 billion, much more than your oil. For Ghana, it is $2.5 billion. First get that, then you begin the conversation of soluble cocoa with the Vinci. 4 billion if we got that, and we can, within a space of 2 years or 3 years.
That's true.
Then we'll be in total control. Then we'll be saying, even if global prices rise, government can now subsidize, because I'll have the dollars. Today, if we wanted to sell dollars to subsidize, our dollars will run out, because as I've said, coffee is only 1 month. So there are a lot of strategic issues, and we need to address the fundamentals, because these are symptoms of things that have been going wrong over the years. We were saying, why doesn't he have a board? Are there no Ugandans to appoint to this board?
I'm here.
Did somebody forget that the board was expiring? When this board was appointed, it was for a period. Yes. Which period we all knew is ending. For heaven's sake, we know around 2026, Museveni's current tenure comes to an end. And we are already financing that process. The Electoral Commission is working out a lot of details. So who was watching his board? If this board is critical and you really want to engage global markets, as like a small, tiny thing, an antelope that must raise its young ones in the same bush where lions are, you've got to be very strategic and address every detail. Is that an ant here or is that a lion? What do I do? But now in our case, when the rain comes, okay. When the sun comes, okay. Don't blame the drought, the locusts, but what did you do to prepare? Where is our research to deal with this? Now the armyworm came, then there was another worm that is moving around. Drought has been, we are there as hunters and gatherers.
That's true.
That's dangerous in the 21st century.
I think, Dr. Muhumuza, I want us to speak to those strategies that we should be looking at, or government should be looking at doing.
These are the things we really are saying. You don't just say, I have an export promotion board. What are you going to export? And in Uganda, decision-making is so decentralized that somebody who thinks Moringa is a good thing to do comes and convinces government, works off with 7 billion to go and begin a Moringa project. In total, how much do you get out of this? You want to first look at the global markets. What are they demanding? Right now, we are saying soybean, sunflower, and simsim are available. And by the way, the war in Ukraine is not about to end. America has so far committed 54 billion. They are seeing something longer. The European OECD have committed over 20 billion. They are seeing something longer. But even the something longer, they are saying we must shift from Russia. They are not about to grow soybean in Netherlands. They have to buy it from somewhere. So what are we doing about that strategy, about that gap that has emerged? As a country? We are sleeping. And soybean, the demand is daily. Even as we are speaking, inventories are being run down. So soon they will be saying, who has anything? And then we'll begin to complain. So prices have even gone higher. For me, the question people should be asking is not when our price is coming down. They are not going to do that. You simply ask when our price is going to stop rising. Because that's the trend now. And then we adjust from there. But we can be sorting out to say, as prices are rising, where do we go? So we're talking about maize. A friend of mine runs a maize mill. He told me the price of maize now has gone to 1,500. So he has shut down his mill because he can't sell at when he buys at that level. When the border south was opened, those people came and bought the maize in some places. Yes. So even as we're talking about maize, there is no maize in this country. Which farm are you talking about? I went to Bukedi, one of the poorest regions in this country after Karamoja. And I saw nice gardens. I said, oh, people here are growing. That's nice. When I went to talk to the district leaders, they told me, by the way, these are Kenyans. They came and leased the land. Ugandans are laborers on the Kenyans' lands. So when all those gardens you see, the produce belongs to the Kenyans.
But even the spices, I understand the ginger.
No, those are our dynamics that we are in. That a Ugandan is getting even more vulnerable, that you lease your land, you till that land, but when the harvest is ready, it is shipped out to the owner of the land. What more slavery and being, mortgaging can you get to? These are the strategic level issues we want to address, and you don't address them through an annual budget that Parliament is going to appropriate. It's lying between the strategies. Why doesn't he have a board? Who is responsible? What are they thinking? Do they care about Uganda Export Promotions Board? If you did, why can't you give it its basic head? And now Parliament is saying we will not give you a budget. Who are you killing? Who are you punishing? Poor Ugandans. They should be saying, by the way, come with the minister tomorrow. And then they ask that minister, where is his board? We have given you 1 month
to get the board.
Don't say by tightening his budget you are solving the problem. No. There is a minister responsible. He has technical teams. We pay them. If there is no that board, Parliament should do that oversight function and call the minister and call whoever it is, give them 1 week or whatever it is, put a board in place. But don't cut a budget. So I think those are the strategic level issues, but at times we get saying, like a small budget here. It doesn't matter even if that budget is big. And I have serious concerns about how we are planning. And now I've said science teachers, 4 million. Then the others, 2 million. But we are following a policy of saying every parish, a school. Whether there are 20 children in that parish or 16, a school. Every sub-county, a secondary school. That's going to drive your wage bill from education. And you're not addressing the core real value of, am I targeting for how many children? So the education rollout plan should be speaking to the demographic dynamics, the population concentrations, the same thing with health, because now brick and mortar is driving the budget. The Minister of Health is saying, I'm going to upgrade all health center 2s to 3. What are you solving? If people couldn't come to 2, the reasons were not that because it's not big or offering bigger services. It's an injection all I need. It's a tablet or it's a plaster and a gauze, dressing of that wound. Can be done at 2. If we are not coming for antenatal, what are the reasons? Jenny's auntie may be already having, I'm pregnant, but the other one this one is going to follow is only 12 months. I have a rice garden to guard against birds. I have firewood to collect. The borehole failed. So this woman can't come for antenatal. Now when they don't come, you say, let's upgrade from 2 to 3. You are driving the government budget without addressing the ecosystem problem. So when are we going to do this strategic thinking so that now the budget begins to seek to the real bayaye, JBD? And they are not bayaye, by the way. That is your own terminology.
Dr. Elly, before we get into a break, indeed, from what Dr. Muhumuza says, Ugandans, we are really too vulnerable, but we need to raise up and get something to be done.
I think those who are in the gardens continue gardening. Those who are in the factories continue producing. Please, you guys know we have a crisis, part of it imported inflation, part of it, I saw you have had the wars and you are a small economy, open economy, we are price takers. You should advise people. I know they don't have money. We might need to rethink the basket of food. The basket of food. Next time you call here Dr. Paul Kasenen to encourage people to diet for this period so that we can see what to do. Because that is so important.
Okay, we shall take in a break, and when we do get back, let's conclude with this discussion. Welcome back. It is the big period. My name is Rita Kemgisa, and we are talking solutions to the current economic situation. In studio, I do have Jen Nalunga, Executive Director, SEATINI, Dr. Fred Muhumuza, Development Economist and also lecturer at Makerere University. I also do have Dr. Elly Twineyo, who is Executive Director, Uganda Export Promotion Board. Jen, as we look for these solutions, and of course we expect much more from our leaders, but even us as the people, the wananchi, efforts. I mean, people are putting in efforts to ensure that to point at these leaders or those people we expect to be having answers for us. Others are protesting. The civil society, I mean, you've been putting up such a spirited fight to show that, well, look, this is how things should get going. But we need the solutions. And clearly you've said, well, we may not expect so much from our president and all that, but the Ugandan out
I
there,
expect a lot,
the Ugandan out there, like Dr. Muhumuza said, he will not speak to things that are not going to be sustainable. But then at the end of the day, that's what we as Ugandans expect anyway. We expect something that will be sustainable. But if it's not, then he will not speak to it. But we need solutions. We need answers.
Yeah, we do need solutions. We do need answers. And for me, what I expect, the president can talk about the current challenges and what he thinks should be done about them. But I think he also needs to talk about solutions, looking at the future. Because today was the future for yesterday. So if we don't confront the future, so every time we say, no, we are looking at today's problems. So we need to look at the future. And from what Dr. Muhumuza raised, for me, I think we need a very strong planning, in fact, an independent planning ministry to plan for this country. And Elly has also brought out the issue of that lack of coordination. We need a very strong planning ministry, not even a unit, entirely separate. Then to what I have also realized is, because I know in the Ministry of Trade, they have a thorough national export strategy. Very good, looking at all the products, what needs to be done, where, how. Again, that's lack of coordination. You go to the PDM, there are other products. You go here, there are other products. Then also, we need to be able to scan the environment as Uganda and be able to situate ourselves. Take an example of the European Union. Europe has been getting a lot of gas, food, wheat and gas from Russia. And now they are changing. And somebody in Germany was telling me that, Jen, you look out. Europe, they are coming to start doing projects on the green energy. Green energy, but it won't be for Africa, but it will be for them. They are now looking at alternatives. But there are things around there. But what I'm trying to say is that they already say there is a problem in Russia. We are getting these things from Russia. What are the alternatives? And as Uganda, we haven't done that. For me, I believe any crisis has positives in them. When you look at this war, as Fred has been saying, we can be suppliers of food. Soybean, sunflower oil. We can have, advantages there. COVID pandemic has also brought new markets People want to eat healthy. People want to eat those spices, the ginger, So we need to be, it shouldn't be business as usual.
Maybe, Jenna, I also want to bring in this, to deviate a little bit from what we're talking about, to the coffee argument that has since been, the Parliament has since directed that it is terminated. What does it mean to you, the civil society, and to other people who have put up such a spirited fight? And then what does it show actually for the executive?
When you look at the coffee agreement, it was, you could see the rights were skewed, towards the company. There were so many gaps there. But for me, I think we need to learn lessons from that agreement. One, who negotiates for us? And this isn't just the first agreement we are signing. The Bujagali, there's the Umeme, there's the Ruboa, but and that's just the national. But they are also regional, they are continental, they are global. We have been there, remember when we were in Cancun, saying we don't want an investment agreement at the global level, So we need to learn lessons from the coffee, because it's good that Parliament has said no, it's not a good agreement. But we need to learn lessons so that we mitigate against such bad deals. Like we have been discussing here, these are markets. The coffee agreement is about a market and products. The word runs on products, raw materials. They want markets. The cheaper they get them, the better. So how do we guard against that? Let us learn lessons. Let us strengthen our negotiating team. Because, for example, this agreement of the coffee, Minister of Trade was not there. But this is a trade issue, And again, when you look at the budget, by the way, Minister of Trade doesn't have money for negotiations. Nothing. Not budgeted for. You remember, Elly, when we used to negotiate the economic partnership agreements with the European Union, it was the European Union funding, even the minister, funding all the officials.
Not surprised you didn't go far. You are negotiating with those who are paying your bill.
For pay, exactly. So even the, so let us look at the who commits, because this is a commitment, committing the country, and that's a huge undertaking. And I think we need to address that. But at the end of that day, because we are the ministerial conference, the WTO ministerial conference is next month, and they are very critical issues to be negotiated. Dr. Muhumuza, you were talking about the vaccine, the producing vaccine. That's one of the issues on the agenda for negotiations, that Africa, and we're not talking about Uganda, we are talking about Africa. And that's why I was talking about a regional approach, because we are saying Africa should manufacture their own vaccines.
Nalunga, as we talk about this vaccine, even efforts to have our own COVID vaccine, unfortunately, we have seen billions of money has been lost and accounted for. But we need to wrap up. I'll need to bring in Dr. Muhumuza.
There is a flaw in that issue anyway. It's another debate which we'll look at.
Yes, I'll need to bring in Dr. Muhumuza. Of course, as the President addresses the nation tomorrow, he has been, like Dr. Elly said, has been good at attracting investments and all that. But owing to this coffee agreement, we have seen
investments to do what? Where?
Bringing in investors and all that. We have seen a few issues here and there. And just the other day, we also did see the President actually call for an investigation into a Chinese firm that was offered an $800 billion deal, of which government had already paid some advance to all this. I mean, all this is affecting us at the end of the day as Ugandans. We want to speak to the President also on investments and all that.
Are technical, not the President, because the President is up. These are technical people who have the challenge. Thank you.
The Koja needs to speak to the bride tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's really going back to the fundamentals. You don't fix diarrhea, as we have said before, by closing the hole. You know which hole we are talking about.
That's a strong one.
I read that and I have never forgotten, but it really sent the message.
The message is clear, loud and clear.
Yes, you deal with the area by going back to say what are the underlying causes. So all this inflation and small things around, we are dealing with the diarrhea, really, but the underlying deep-seated issues that we need to get to. These two people have said trade is war. So even after we fund negotiations, then there is the war part, which really does it. How well are we pitched at the war? And war is technical. War is scientific. You don't just go to Europe with your banana and say, I want to sell bananas there. No. They are going to ask you questions. What is the sugar content? What sprays did you use on that banana that you have brought here? How long do they last in the banana? Which is speaking back to our original, the science. And I think this is why we need to go slow on, did we really lose the COVID money? Science does not give you immediate results that go and arrest a criminal there and you catch them. And sometimes you lose the money. So you do not want to, because science is strategic. We do not have, people called it a GMO law, but it was really a very fundamental law to say, how do we deal with the new diseases? Climate change is coming up. The new diseases facing cassava and bananas and coffee require a lot more research, which capacity we do not have. So when you commit money to sciences, the results are not in an annual budget. That, Madam Musenero, you received money last year, what did you do? You are going to get into an investigation of a very complex nature that is not a financial accounting, that is not a parliamentary auditing. You want to be asking the long-term strategy. For some years, we have not invested adequately in NARO, the National Agricultural Research Organization. Is funded by donors. As we are saying, even as we negotiations are funded by donors, even our own research is funded by donors. And you need to bring that home. Because as long as these are the people who want to sell wheat to you, they will never make sure your cassava and maize succeeds. No. So you want to look into those dimensions. So where are we strategically? And for me, those are the fundamental questions I would want to have a conversation with as a COJA to the government system. And this is why we're driving the agenda. We're not going to be addressing issues of, hey, you have diarrhea, find some cotton. No. What caused it? Plug the pipe.
Dr. Elly, your last remarks. Dr. Elly, your last remarks as we look for solutions to the current economic situation.
I think coordination will be important in this situation. It is important that we rethink costs. Even companies should rethink costs. Even government will need to rethink costs. Households need to rethink costs. Costs of production and costs of consumption. Again, it is important, like everybody has said, that we produce for the market. We are going to get out of poverty by producing for the market. If we don't produce for the market, then we will remain beggars, because I always say, and Jane has been saying it, I don't believe in foreign aid and I believe in aid exit. Okay. I think foreign aid also has been abused or has, let me tell you, I worked with organizations that are aid related and donors, and I was a consultant. Aid is not benefiting us because the one who gives aid did not intend that aid works for us.
All right, Dr. Elly Twineyo, thank you so much. He's Executive Director, Uganda Export Promotion Board. I've also been having Dr. Fred Muhumuza, Development Economist and lecturer at Makerere University, and Jen Nalunga, Executive Director, SEATINI. We've been looking at solutions towards the economic situation in the country. My name is Rita Kemgesa. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Coming up is the news and later sports. 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 News and later sports.